the first product I put through my Excel sheet was Public Provident Fund. And I remember the impact it had. Like, they were saying, you can become a crorepati with PPF just putting this much. Being financially independent does not mean that you stop working.
We are talking about financial independence, and the major question which someone talks about is, what's the number?
So at age 40, you should have 3 times of your annual income.
Who manages the money in your family?
And the answer is very simple, I do.
So I used to be a financial coward. Money is not an ego trip. Your masculinity is not directly proportional to the amount of money that you manage.
If you know anything about personal finance, you know Monika Halan, the first personal finance journalist of India, best-selling author, and advisor to SEBI on investor protection, are among just the few things that make her the personal finance guru. And today, she's all set to talk money with us. So today, of course, we are here with someone who, at least for our viewers, needs no introduction. First thing we would like to know is, in terms of your professional career, right? How did your journey start there, and where are you at right now? How has that journey been?
First income is business today. I joined as trainee researcher right out of Delhi School of Economics. Something like 1,650 rupees, small
Wow.
salary. So began my career as a business journalist. And then I was with Economic Times. And that is the time I made a transition into something called personal finance. This is 1997. Personal finance was not a thing back then. 91, the reforms had just happened. The
Right.
market had just opened up. And I remember the first product. So I knew my maths, right? I know Excel sheets.
Right.
So the first product I put through my Excel sheet was Public Provident Fund. I just did the maths on what 5,000 rupees a month for 15, 20, 30 years would lead up to in a compounding interest product. And I remember the impact it had in the entire building. Like, they were saying, you can become a crorepati with PPF just putting this much. So nobody had done the math till then.
Right.
So that's how I realized the power of using really my training as an economist, being familiar with numbers, putting it through the prism of retail products to tell people what does it mean for you.
In terms of the markets which are there today, right? Over the number of years till now, what kind of evolution have you seen in the way personal finance is viewed? Do you think there's been a change? And if yes, is it there to a level which you think is ideal now, at least in the Indian markets?
It's a good question because when I started, there used to be the FD insurance gold real estate investor.
Right.
And there used to be people who would gamble on the stock market, the IPO and the Satta type of
Correct.
investing, the penny stock investing. And I began some TV shows at that time, one with NDTV very early on. The questions which would come were very typical short-term questions. I have 50,000 rupees. What should I do with it? The biggest reform in India in the financial sector has been done by SEBI, where today we have markets which are, in terms of the world, I think the most efficient. I must talk about the work done in the space of mutual funds. It was in 2009 that Mr. C.B. Bhave, who was the then chairman of SEBI, he took a very hard call. So there was mis-selling happening in the whole mutual fund space. They were churning investors. He took away the front commission. So not many people know that mutual funds were allowed to charge 7% of your investment as a
Right.
commission. At a stroke, he took that away. He made India one of the first markets in the world where mutual funds went no load, zero load. And because I was closely associated with this whole decision, I had actually people calling me up and saying, congratulations, you have killed the industry.
Wow.
That policy really transformed the market back in 2009. Of course, India is a large country. You will have all kinds of people. But I think a significant portion of people who have been investing have come to realize that a structured, goal-based route to financial empowerment is really the best way.
And I think right now in personal finance, the most popular word which we hear is FIRE, right? Like,
Yeah.
financially independent, retire early.
Right.
What do you think is the right time to start working on achieving this goal of financial independence? And one more thing I'd like to ask, and I think which most of the people would usually want to know is, am I too late to start?
Yeah.
Like, is there something like too late to start?
So you pretty much actually do start the day you start working in the organized sector,
Right.
because you have something called the Provident Fund deductions. So you're already doing something. And typically, what happens is your late 20s, till your mid 30s, it's a time of great expenses. The ability to do large savings for your retirement is not there. So, even if you can just do another 5% on top of the PF that you're doing, it's not bad at all.
This for the
Right.
initial years you're mentioning.
Because you don't have elbow room. See,
Right.
there's no point. Also, again, for all the young people who are listening, you're going to be in your 20s and 30s just once.
Of course.
Okay, you will get older, and these are the decades in which you have you enjoy your life, you're young, you can do things. And also, what your generation needs to remember is that your 50s decade will be your highest earning decade. So your ability to save in your 50s decade is very high. Families save 40, 50, 60% of their take home. Your risk in your 50s decade is to get replaced by somebody in their 30s, because you're a very high cost
Correct.
resource for the company. So you've got to really understand that in your 50s you should have a skill set that makes the company keep you.
And I think, ma'am, we are talking about financial independence, and the major question which someone talks about is, what's the number?
So all I want to share is that the fire target, of course, has been reached,
Right.
and the current income which comes is available to be spent.
Oh, lovely. Do you think there is an ideal corpus per se?
You see, retirement is one of the toughest problems to solve, because one, you don't know what inflation levels will be. You don't know what the economy will be like. You don't know how long you will work. So there are so many moving parts that you can only get a ballpark figure. So one way is to look at your spending at age 60 and do a multiplier. So I'll tell you the method that I use. You take what you are spending a year today and you extrapolate it to age 60. You use an inflation calculator. There are some very good calculators on the SEBI site.
Right.
You multiply that number by 26. So it'll come into crores. That is the number which will allow you to not eat up your capital, leave a bequeath for your heirs, and eat maybe half your capital. If you plan to eat up your entire corpus, then you multiply by 18. If you want to leave your entire corpus to your heirs, then multiply by 35. I've taken 26 because when you multiply by 35, it's a very, very large number.
Right.
And there's a second way that you can do it, where you are making milestones according to your age. So at age 40, you should have 3 times of your annual income. At age 50, 6 times of your annual income.
Okay.
And age 60, 8 times of your annual income. So there's a difference in the annual income and the annual spending numbers.
Right.
So those are the milestones that you need to look at to see whether you are well prepared or not for your retirement. And these two numbers, when you do the math, they are within a ballpark of each other. My personal views is just this, that being financially independent does not mean that you stop working. So in a lot of the studies, it shows that money comes at number 3 in terms of the things which give you satisfaction in life. What gives you the most satisfaction is meaning in life. So your desire for that financial corpus is valid. You must do it. But also remember to have something to do.
True.
So it is important. Financial stability, independence, very important. Equally important to think through the rest of your 35, 40 years of your life as to what you will do.
So, ma'am, we've discussed about, how your first foray sort of into personal finance was this calculator on PPF, right?
Correct.
And how the compounding sort of shocked everyone.
Right.
Today, with these multiple investment options out there for everyone to invest, what are your opinions on the traditional instruments which are there today? Or NPS, PPF, EPF?
EPF, PPF, according to me, form the core of your long-term investing portfolio for people who are able to invest more than that required 1.5 lakh. The NPS is meant for people who don't have EPF. NPS is a great product. It's structured in a way where mis-selling is not possible.
Right.
My only issue with the NPS is that at the time of retirement, at 60, when you get your money back at vesting stage, you get 60% of the corpus, and that's tax-free,
Right.
which is fantastic. But you have to compulsorily buy an annuity with 40% of your retirement money. Who sells the annuities? Insurance companies. Insurance companies in India have not covered themselves up with glory in terms of being fair to investors.
Right.
I don't see the sense of handing over 40% of my money to an insurance company to buy an annuity from them, especially at an age where I can not earn fresh money. So that remains my problem with the NPS. If the NPS was to give me 100% of my money back at retirement, absolutely, no questions asked. But this 40%, which is handed over to an insurance company, I have a big problem with.
So, ma'am, key question, right? Who manages the money in your family? I think this is something which we all would want to know.
And the answer is very simple, I do. He has now become a participant and now we manage it together. But for many, many years, I was the person who managed all the finances, all the taxes, all the decisions, the actual doing, the redeeming, the investing. We do exactly what I write in my books. Our entire assets are in mutual funds. We both don't own a single stock. And we are both believers in not having too many properties. It's a messy, clunky asset. So one house that we live in, that's it. So this house actually we bought about 3 years back.
Right.
The first house we bought was 2009. And we sold that and bought this one. Rest, the entire asset pile is mutual funds. The allocation is 70% equity, 30% debt. That's what the allocation looks like. I am not recommending this to people my age, but I think we are both finance people. We know what we are doing. To other people in their 50s, I would recommend a lower equity allocation. But that's what we are at.
I think one factor which, even which I've seen across conversations with different colleagues is, female participation in markets, or in general, control over finances or managing of finances. What is your view in terms of how there is, participation of women in finance today? And has that sort of changed over the past, 20, 30 years, which you've been around in the market?
It's changing, but very slowly, slower than what I would like. And there are a lot of non-financial reasons for that. Typically, girls are not brought up to look after money. And
Right.
that's what they see in their homes. The mother looks after the household expenses. Investments are made by the father. It's not very pleasant to say, but you want to keep the girl child out of knowing how many assets there are so that she doesn't ask for her share, because the assets, they go down the male line.
Right.
So they are sort of kept out of those asset decisions. And that translates into the way that women look at money. I have to tell you, so if I'm going somewhere, if it's a social evening or something, and they ask me what you do, and I say financial education, the women's response 9 out of 10 times is, oh, I know nothing about it. And we harm ourselves. We are taking a knife and sticking it in ourselves, because money is power and you're giving that power away.
Have you seen a change, at least to some extent, today than maybe 10 years ago?
It's very slow. There is a little bit of change, but it is very slow. So all women work. Women work inside the house, and some women also work outside the house. So the woman who's also earning is so busy managing both that she simply doesn't have the time to
Right.
look after. There's one more thing to do. And that's the one job, not the laundry, not the kids. That's the one job the man is happy to take, of managing money, of
Right.
taking over decisions. I'm not saying that she gets cheated out of it, but there are stories of investments of the woman's money only being done in the man's name. So, especially to women who are listening to this, you have to put on your money oxygen mask.
Right.
Do job sharing in some other part of your life, but at least start participating in where the money is going. You can ask simple questions. What assets do we have? In whose name are they? Where is the paperwork? What do I have in my name? I think you should not be shy to ask these questions, because countless divorced women who I've spoken to have said that we had no idea that we had nothing on our name.
Wow.
Because India doesn't have what is called community of marital property,
Right.
which means that assets built during the period of a marriage, if it were to end, are split 50-50. That's what it means. India doesn't have it. The asset belongs to the person in whose name that asset is. So if the woman's salary has been managing the house and the man's salary savings have built an asset and there is a divorce, he walks away with the assets and you have your dry cleaning bills. That's what you have. So be careful. Ensure that you have assets in your name. See the paperwork. Finally, it's your life.
So, ma'am, this habit of, saving or learning about personal finance is something which I feel at least maybe should be inculcated slightly earlier. I mean, at least for me personally as well, I was not so much aware. But when I started earning, my brother immediately made me invest. Do you think inculcating these sort of habits and awareness, um, you know, during a stage of being a kid, will help in the future journey?
Absolutely. I mean, the more money aware they are in terms of growing up, while they're growing up, it only is a life skill that you teach them. And kids will do as you do, they won't do as you say. So they will look at your spending habits, they will observe your investing habits and learn from that. So if you want your children to not spend foolishly, then you have to stop spending foolishly. And one thing which you must do is tell them the impact of choices, that choices have consequences. And I'll share a very small personal story with you. Our daughter was very young. I think she would have been 7 or 8 years old. And we were out book shopping. So there was this old books store where they were selling used books, and there was a new bookstore. So I think it was some 200 rupees, which I said that you can buy books from. If you buy old books, you'll buy 3. If you buy a new book, you'll get 1. I don't remember it. She remembers it very clearly that I was trying to make no moral judgment. I think I spent time explaining that, this is your choice. There is merit to having a shiny new book. There is merit to having 3 books.
Right.
And she remembers sort of listening to me because she had to, because she had made up her mind that 3 in any case is better than 1. Okay. So those are the sort of choices you can help them make at a very early age.
Right. Touching on something within your family, right? Were people in your family always receptive to financial advice coming from you in like the larger group? And has that changed over the years?
Very interesting question. There is a saying in Hindi, na, diya tale andhera. Your family is almost the last to onboard.
Right.
Other than, of course, my husband. The extended family took some time. I think the biggest transition was in my father, who also used to be an economics professor. But, he was part of that generation who lost money in Unit 64 and said, ye sab scam hai. But it is as recently, I think, as just 10 years back, 15 years back, that he fully transitioned to mutual funds. So it's taken some time. What I want to share with you and all the other people watching this is that it's very important to document your financial life.
Right.
So I began this journey many years ago. I have a spiral diary where I started putting down, basic things like Aadhaar, PAN, bank account details. So this diary, and sorry, it's a little bit of tough love. I call it If I Die Before You file. Okay. If I die before you, there is a whole list of things.
Right.
All the financial relationships, the names of the planner, the name of the lawyers, the platforms through which you invest.
Right.
All of those details are there in that document. And I must tell you that a book will be releasing soon.
Lovely.
The title will come out soon, where it'll help people record these things. It'll be a record book, which you can keep for use today. And if something happens to you, it'll be the roadmap for your family. So this is a document that I have personally used, and I'm bringing it for use for everyone else as well.
And ma'am, in terms of your expenses which you've done in your life, right? I need to ask you, is there any expense which you have regretted? Any thing which you said, maybe I should not have bought this?
So earlier there wasn't any money for this. And by the time the money came, the desires were not that many. I think the way that we spend reflects on deep feelings within ourselves. So
True.
If you feel insecure about something, that crutch off that branded product might help you feel better. So I think it's important for us to decipher why we want to buy.
True. And in fact, I sort of read this interesting anecdote where, someone was questioning who is really a wealthy person. Right?
Yes.
And the person answered, it's that guy who walks in with absolutely normal clothes like a, sweatshirt, walks into a 3 Michelin star and leaves a 50% tip for the, person who served them just because they can.
Right.
Yes.
The way that I see money is how you earn it and what you do with it.
True.
How you earn it is a reflection on who you are. How you spend it is a reflection on who you are. So money is good. Earn it in a manner which gives you and others dignity. And spend it in a manner which helps you.
Absolutely.
So I used to be a financial coward. I could not take risk. The family background was such. We were middle class, we went into lower middle class and then climbed our way up. And the idea that by taking what is known as risk, we could lose it all, I get frozen. So risk is about the mind, but risk is equally about your emotions at the vital level. And I think my vital dominated my mind. And for a long time, I was unable to move. And luckily, she was there. I said, you know what? You take all the money. Just put it. Don't tell me. I don't want to know. I don't need to know.
Now, of course, it's a joint participative effort. But for a long time, I just got the money invested and did not tell him where it was going.
Money is not an ego trip. Your masculinity is not directly proportional to the amount of money that you manage. So whoever is the smarter person, give the money. Money is a good thing to have, and it smoothens a lot of problems in life. It's not the only thing, but it smoothens a lot of things in life. So keep your ego aside and let the better person manage the money. And if you can't, hire a financial planner.
Thank you for watching and supporting our channel. If you like the stories we tell, here's your chance to be a part of it. If you or anybody you know has an interesting financial journey to share, then please fill the form in the pinned comment below and we'll get in touch with you.